Now, in June 2006, when the Persons with Disability Act 2006, Act 715, was finally passed by the Parliament of Ghana, many stakeholders, including persons with disabilities, received it with all enthusiasm. Again, prior to the Disability Act, Article 29 of the 1992 Constitution of Ghana, it spells out the rights of persons with disability. These acts covers thematic areas such as rights, accessibility, employment, education, transportation, and healthcare for PWDs. Again, establishment and functions of a National Council on Persons with Disability and some miscellaneous provisions. These goals are full of equal opportunity, full of participation, independent living, and economic self-sufficiency. Nearly 2 decades after these disability acts, the estimated 5 million Ghanaians with disabilities are yet to see the full implementation of these laws. Again, the Global Disability Summit in 2018 sought to mobilize efforts for the implementation of the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Now, joining me in studio for a conversation on this is Abdul Adam Wahab. He's the Programs Officer for the Ghana Federation of Disability Organization. Thanks to you for joining us. Now, it's been almost 2 decades since this law was passed. How would you assess how government has put in place measures to, put these laws in place over the past 2 decades?
Okay, thank you very much for this question. For persons with disabilities, when the Disability Act was passed, we were very happy because it happened to be one of the first disability laws that have been passed in beautiful provisions that we put in the Act. For instance, the Act gave a provision that buildings that are meant for public use should be given 10 years to be modified to become disability friendly. But unfortunately, even Ministry of Gender currently, where issues of persons with disabilities are being managed, is not accessible to persons with disabilities. In our health facilities, we still see that there are difficulties for persons with disabilities to access it. Education, the same thing. We are supposed to move away from the segregated school to the mainstream and an inclusive education system. But unfortunately, we are yet to realize that though Ghana, through the National Standard Authority have put in place these national standards, accessibility standards, and then the building codes. Unfortunately, we've not seen any of these things incorporated, and we've never seen government taking any action against persons who are putting up buildings that are not accessible to.
Okay. I want to focus on some of these areas. So we're talking about employment and education. How has it been for persons with disabilities over the past 2 decades?
Yeah, good. Employment and education, they are brothers, because it is education that brings the employment. Unfortunately, education for persons with disability has not been very effective even after the passage of the disability law, even though we've seen some kind of improvement where we can have very good number of persons with disabilities being educated, but it is like we are much focusing on the segregated educational system, which doesn't give persons with disabilities.
When you say segregated educational system, what do you mean?
We have school for the blind, we have school for the deaf, but the system should have been like whether I'm person with albinism, person who is deaf, we should all be in the same school. And
but these individuals have very specific needs. So don't you think that if the system is tailored made for, say, blind individuals, or wouldn't that be better?
That to me is no better, and to persons with disability is no better, because we still have to enjoy the relationship that we need to have in our communities. We need to be educated in our community and have that kind of socialization for people to understand the needs of persons with disabilities. If we are only persons with albinism who are in one community, others outside the community will not understand our issues. They will not understand our need. But when we are mixed, they see the challenges we go through. They see the efforts that we are making. Then they tend to appreciate what we can do. And that is where they will have the zeal to say, okay, Wahab can perform A, B, C, and D, and for that matter, let's employ him. And then when we talk of employment, persons with disabilities, we face a lot of discriminations and when it comes to employment.
Can you share some of these challenges in terms of employment that your folk face?
One is, I mean, when you send the application and you may not state in the CV or in the application letter that you are a person with disabilities, but you go for the interview, they see the disability that you have. And the questions that they will ask you will not focus on what you can do as a person with disability, but the focus will now be on your disability. There was a time I went to look for a job, and then the question the lady asked me is about person with albinism. We know you cannot see well, and you are coming to teach English. How do you mark students' work and correct errors like comma, full stop, and others? But the sense that I was thinking she should make is, how did I even learn those things to obtain that certificate that I am having? So we think that there is a need for government to follow good practices like what Kenya is doing, and South Africa. They have what they call employment equity policy, where they say, okay, public sector, 10% of jobs should be observed for qualified persons with disabilities. And also having programs put in place to target persons with disabilities who are not formally educated.
Okay. All right. Now, there's another school of thought that says that stakeholders, when they are consulting for in terms of issues for persons with disabilities, they fail to involve persons with disability in their consultations to implement policies. What is your take on this?
That is true. You know, we have organizations of persons with disabilities, which is made up of individuals who have the knowledge. Unfortunately, in our country, or in Ghana, let me be specific, because I know somebody who is a person with disability, maybe I want to have a program, I just know the person, whether he knows what I'm talking about or not, I just say, Wahab, come and sit down here, we have this program to discuss. And then the person sit down, he doesn't even know what we are talking about, but you claim you involve the person. Truly, government does not much involve persons with disabilities in planning. Let's take even the National Council on Persons with Disability, for instance, which is the state agency to manage the issues about disability that was actually set up by the Disability Act. Is supposed to have been given the power and the mandate to function as an independent body. But the Ministry of Gender sees it as a department of the ministry. And most often, they don't involve the council in most of their things.
All right, thank you so much for your time there, Abdul Adam Wahab. He's the Programs Officer for the Ghana Federation of Persons Living with Disability.